Make us instruments of your peace.
Where there is hatred, let us sow love.
Where there is injury, pardon.
Where there is doubt, faith.
Where there is despair, hope.
Where there is darkness,
light. And where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master,
grant that we may not so much seek
to be consoled as to console,
to be understood as to understand,
to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive,
it is in pardoning that we are pardoned,
and it is in dying
that we are born to eternal life.
Amen.
WESN.
Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I'm Naomi McNish. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. High Court judges Tobago home burgled amid security concerns. Farmer executed in Tabaquite robbery attempt. Gary Griffith protests reflect years of frustration, not just wage disputes. And family seeks justice on first anniversary of son's murder. Now for the details. High Court Judge Frank C. Prasad's Tobago residence was broken into over the weekend. The house, located in a gated compound, was found with a broken window and a ransacked suitcase. Though nothing was stolen, the judge in Tobago for court hearings arrived to discover the intrusion. C. Prasad, who has faced numerous threats over the years, criticized the state of security in Trinidad and Tobago, saying Paradise Lost nowhere is safe. He previously wrote to Police Commissioner Earl Christopher and National Security Minister Fitzgerald Hines seeking enhanced protection after his security detail was reduced earlier this year. Investigations into the break-in are ongoing. A 60-year-old farmer, Winston Manu Lokan, was executed outside his employer's home in Tabaquite on December 8th during an attempted robbery. Police say Lokan was lured to the house by a gunman who fatally shot him before attacking the homeowner. The homeowner managed to disarm the assailant, who fled into nearby bushes. Lokan was pronounced dead at the scene and investigators recovered ammunition. Homicide detectives are continuing their probe. National Transformation Alliance leader and former police commissioner Gary Griffith says the December 7th protests highlight years of public frustration, not just opposition to the Salaries Review Commission report or the government's 4% wage offer to public servants. Griffith, in a Facebook post, criticized poor governance, disrespect towards unions, and what he called biased decision-making. He called for trade unions to have a permanent role in governance and stressed the need for unity among political parties, unions, and NGOs to address systemic inequities. The protests led by the Joint Trade Union Movement include a march to the Prime Minister's residence to deliver a list of demands urging the government to revisit its decisions. The family of 25-year-old murder victim Antonio Russian Manik Chand marked the first anniversary of his death with a prayer service on November 28th. Manik Chand was brutally beaten with an iron bar outside a Barrackpore bar last year, succumbing to his injuries days later. The suspect, known to the family, remains at large. His grieving mother, Cassie Manik Chand, is urging anyone with information to contact the police, saying justice is inevitable. Police investigations are ongoing. Well, that's News to the Hour on WESN. I'm Naomi McNish. Thanks for watching.
WESN.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business. I'm nothing to do with that.
I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break a balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No,
of the game.
no.
Let's go to the last part.
Hello there and welcome to AM Prime on WESN Content Capital. Before we even start this repatriation and reintegration process, we've already failed or are we doomed to fail?
You've got to invest in the institutions that you've established to carry out those sorts of core functions.
We now get into the regional updates to give you an understanding of what's happening across our neighboring islands.
We have available a number of films that are worth showing.
So it was day one when the French Revolution started to develop the concept of universal human rights.
What happened this time is unprecedented. It's one of the largest terrorist attacks in history.
Let's welcome Carl to the program. Carl is over there next in stuff. Hello, Carl.
Silky anteater or pygmy anteater, and we have two of the three species of anteaters right here.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Money is something we all deal with, but how many of us truly understand it? What if you could make better decisions with your money? Decisions that secure your future, protect your family, and bring you peace of mind. I'm Darren Jacobs, and I'm here to help you make sense of your dollars. Welcome to Dollars and Cents, the show that breaks down the financial world in ways that matter to you. No jargon, no confusion, just real conversations about money, your money. So join me every Wednesday at 10 a.m. on WESN for Dollars and Cents.
¿Qué camino cogería si cogióle las desgracias? ¿Qué golpe no llevaría? ¿Qué golpe no llevaría? Una mujer me llamaba, pero yo no le...
WESN.
Hello there, and welcome to AM Prime on WESN Content Capital. I'm Keaton Shaw. Thanks for joining us. Every morning I start this show, or try to start the show with a smile, but I have a bigger smile on my face because it's Friday. So who wouldn't be happy about that? And apart from being Friday, we're getting closer and closer to that magical day full of merriment, and the celebrations are in full swing. And if you're celebrating Christmas, just the sound of the music associated with the festivities and the season alone is a beautiful thing, particularly parang. In fact, I look forward to Parang every year, and would you believe I have never really gone to Parang? Yeah, that's something that my guests might probably be very disappointed in me hearing as I introduce them this morning. Miss Alicia Jagus, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Katan, and good morning to Trinidad and Tobago and all the listeners on WESN. Yes, I am in shock.
Yes, I have to admit that.
We need to change that.
I agree. We made a plan in our studio last year for all of us to go up to Paramin, and I don't know what happened, but we're still planning to go up again this year.
Yes, it's happening on the 13th of December, Friday the 13th. So I would look forward to seeing you through the thousands of people up there.
No pressure at all. But how are you doing? How are you keeping?
I can't complain. I'm blessed. In spite of so many different challenges, there are so many positives inside of there. I recently lost my dad. Somehow Christmas seemed to be, I lose most of my loved ones around Christmas time, making it even more difficult to celebrate this festive season. But, quite able to maneuver my way through the season. And, well, as paranderos, late nights, but we're doing well.
Well, I'm really sorry for the loss of your father. May you rest in peace. And I'm also sorry to have to wake you up so early for an interview. But thank you so much for joining us on the program. And it's that season. It's in full swing, as you would have mentioned. And last month, the National Parang Association members were saying that, with the junior Parang competition that was taking place, we see that the future of Parang, it's in a bright place. Parang is having a great time, and it's going to have an amazing future because of all the participation that we're seeing. When we spoke in earlier this year, a couple of months ago, when we were celebrating National Parang History Month,
yes,
I asked you in respect to whether or not you think there's greater participation in the art form. Are you seeing that happening? Are you seeing it growing every year?
Well, yes, I am seeing it. Like this year, when we look at the participation of the primary schools and the secondary schools, and this year in the Junior Parang Festival, we included an element, our youth officer, which is Joseph Bertram. We included an element that each school must research an icon in Spanish. So they had 5 minutes where they have to research this icon and make a presentation, because we see it more like a festival than just you come and do one song and done, but to immerse yourself in the culture of Parang, knowing the culture of Parang, knowing the icons, knowing what they have done and where Parang came from, in order for them to be standing on that stage at that moment, making that presentation. It is also an attempt to involve the other students, because, some students might like drama, some students might like art. So we decided, let's engage the drama unit of the schools and have them participate. So we increased the number of students being involved in the Junior Parang by including the drama. And we will now continue that trend by including the art, including the designing element of it as we move forward. So the idea is to get more and more students involved, not necessarily the ones who sing or play an instrument, but the others who are inclined to be to do other aspects of the creative industry to also come together on this, or to make it more festival-like and to immerse the children more in the culture. So I'm seeing a lot of involvement, especially from the younger level. I remember after the competition, some of the students, they call me Miss, you remember me? And I'm like, okay, yes, I still see the little Miss. I said, what are you doing? Well, Miss, I left school, and I'm helping a school. And Miss, is there any way after we finish this that we can form a band because we want to continue Parang? Well, that was music to my ears. Because now you're looking at them coming out of secondary school or tertiary education and wanting to form Parang bands, So we do have a few bands like that already where they came out from school and now they want to immerse themselves more and more into the Parang art form to become one of the big bands now. So I'm seeing where Parang is in great hands. They even, when I look at the bands around Trinidad, the senior bands, I'm looking at them and I'm seeing they too are ensuring that communities are filled with the music of Parang.
Yeah. When it came to that aspect of the history and the background, even speaking about icons, what were the results of that? Did you see enthusiasm in respect to learning about the history of Parang and the icons who have helped the art form to evolve, have shaped really what we know as Parang?
Yes, the students were very excited, especially the idea of including the drama students and not just the parent. They were so excited. When you look at some of the presentations were all grand presentations. So you saw that the children were excited and they're looking forward to it next year. When I looked at it and sometimes some of them I wonder if I was in a Dimash Gras show because they came with all their big posters and pictures of what is Daisy Vozet or Gloria Alcazar, Holly B. Todier, there was Henry Pereira, so Lara Brothers, So when we looked at it and we look at the excitement in which these children, the time that was placed into putting that presentation together, we know that they were excited. If you see them and who dress like Tito Lara, the drama aspect of it, So it was really, I think it's something that the schools are definitely looking forward to next year and beyond that. And just as I was telling you before, including the other elements, I think that is definitely going to be a plus and excite the children even more to become involved in the Parang art form on any level at all.
What if that wanting to create these Parang bands, are you seeing new Parang bands, being trained out every year? Are you seeing groups being formed every year?
I'm seeing a lot of groups being formed every year. But one of my major concern, it's a concern in a way because sometimes people just come together and form a Parang group.
Yeah.
Just to gig, as they say. We might get a few gigs and, you put $1 in your pocket and 5 persons come together. I call them the five-piece specialists. And it is creating, like recently I did a post on social media about corporate Trinidad and persons, companies wanting to employ paranderos for $2,500 and $3,000 and $3,500. And I was a bit appalled the amount of them that was happening for 2024. It's difficult after, ensuring and working for an art form to bring it out of, this is just about drink a rum or eat a piece of ham or a pastel when they come by me, to a meaningful, which is the season, the reason for the season, the birth of Jesus Christ. And it was a bit difficult for me to see all these little Parang bands being formed just for the 5-piece. And when a band, say like a big band, a 12-member band, because we have a lot of large bands in Trinidad and Tobago. These said companies are saying, that's my budget. My budget is $3,000. My budget is $2,500. And they expect to pay that to a large band. Well, of course, you would know that they would pay one individual 10 times that. And that is a bit concerning for me. But yes, we are seeing a lot of parang bands being tuned out. I'm very interested in the element where the younger ones are so much interested in forming new bands, and that interest, as I was saying, that they're running to you and saying, how is this possible? We want to do this. We want to get involved in this. And I was telling somebody, we need to be very mindful that these young people who are getting into parang and immersing themselves in the history of parang, that they don't fall into this mentality of, yeah, give me something to drink and give me a little $5, you know. It means more to people like myself and a lot of paranderos out there, that we are taking this just like if we are calypso artists, if we are soca artists, we are gospel artists, this is what we do. This parang is what our lives, you know. So I am seeing a lot of it, but we need to be very mindful as to what we're promoting it as, so that we are not seen as just somebody, another art form to just, you know.
Do you think that to an extent that it may be seen or can be seen as a mockery of the art form, and for all the wrong reasons? Do you think that is a possibility?
Well, in a way, especially if you are not aware of why. There's a why. And paranderos are carolers, firstly, where at Christmas time, as you would know, carolers will go from house to house singing songs, celebrating the story of the birth of Jesus Christ. And that is who paranderos are at Christmas time. That's what we do, the music that we do. And sometimes you would see, if you're listening, if a band is on stage or a band is at a home, sometimes they don't know that you need to start with a serenal, which is a song saying that, hey, this is who I am, this is where we're from, this is the name of the band, this is the name of the singer, and this is why we are here. So somebody might start a parang with a manzanari or a istribi or a sai. So there is a lot of ignorance, mind you, out there. But that's why we are here, to ensure that we get that message out there, that there's a structure. And not only that, we are becoming a bilingual society. So it's very important that we use music. This is the only music that we have that would be able to bridge that gap. As in schools and even among our citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, they start to pick up on words and the meaning because of parang. So if we immerse ourselves, whether it's on a governmental level, corporate Trinidad and Tobago, start supporting this in the way it should be supported as a tool for education, and also, of course, that tool to bring joy and the message to citizens locally and beyond, I think the art form is going to propel even more.
How's the National Parang Association, or rather, what is the National Parang Association of Trinidad and Tobago doing to propel the art form even further? We celebrated National Parang History Month. That was really interesting. I remember that interview very well. But beyond just that, I mean, what else is the association doing for the promotion of the art form?
Well, this year in particular, every year we try to look at different elements of the art form that we think should be highlighted. So this year, we decided to focus on where it all started, which was the House Parang Festival. So we have a House Parang Festival this year, where the paranderos themselves, we choose a base house, and we have a mini concert in that base house. But from that house, paranderos will go out doing house-to-house parang in the traditional way, where the persons, you're not supposed to know when you're coming. There's a more recent thing where people plan house parang. in the past, what they do is they show up and the people open the door, and sometimes they don't open the door. That's all. We went to Piparo actually, and we had that experience. I think it was the 9th of November. So we're going, and I went to that house, Parang, and he's singing, and he's singing, and he's singing, and singing, and the people didn't open the door,
Oh no.
And what we did is we went to another, we decided we continue paranging in the streets, and we saw, when they heard the Parang family, they peeping out and thing, so we stopped and we singing our serenade there, So here we are as an association, trying to teach persons this is where it came from, this is where it all started. And this is the format, so that this is not just pick up a quattro or pick up a marac and just sing. Our icons, that is what they used to do. People like Tito and Willie, when they tell you stories and they're going from house to house, sometimes they don't come back for days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They would put their toothbrush, an extra change of undies and a little jersey. Yeah. If you hear the stories of House Parang, you would know. And they would go from village to village until like sometimes Christmas morning they may come back, and sometimes they didn't see them until Boxing Day, So yes. So that's what the association is doing this year, taking this element of the art form to highlight where we came from, so that persons will know that we're serious about this thing, and this is where it came from, and we continue to evolve the art form, and yet still maintaining and preserving the integrity of where it came from.
And it's just under 3 weeks before the big day itself is celebrated. Has it been a busy season thus far, and is the next 3 weeks proving to be a packed calendar?
It is. For example, like this weekend, the National Parang Association, we have 2 events. One is on Saturday, where we go to Arima, as they say, the home of Parang. Everything was done very modest, because we don't have the finances as an association to have the large festivals that we are used to seeing, because to produce one of those festivals is like over $100,000 each community we go in. So we try to keep it, small. So we are at the Paul Mitchell Street on Saturday in Arima, by the First Peoples. It's just a small contribution we ask people to make of $100. So that is Saturday. That's the House Parang Festival. And then Sunday, we have the close of the Parang Tent. Well, we have our Parang Tent. We started the Parang Tent last year, and we continued it this year. It's one of the programs that we started to really try to exist from January to December. So we are hoping that maybe once a month or twice a month that we will have the tent open from January to December. We're looking at sustainability in any way that we can. Small first, eventually we will grow. So that the close of the Parang Tent is this Sunday on Aripita Avenue at Wing It. One of our paranderos is in charge of that place down there. So we are taking Parang down on Aripita Avenue by Wing It. In addition to that, well, I have my band Los Alumnos de San Juan, and we, in between that, now we have to try to maneuver your way through the association and through your band, and then through your private shows, and which is good because it means that you are busy. And our band is preparing for our concert also, which is on, this is the 4th year we're having our concert, Cantando Glory. And that is on the 16th of December at Estate 101. So if you want tickets, you could call me 7850248. Yes.
I realize I have no excuse. I've been given notice. You have no excuse. Thank you so very much for joining us on the program this morning. Thank you for your time. I hope you're excited. But I promise you that you will get to sleep in the month of January. You're going to have to stay awake for the month of December. But when January comes, don't worry, you'll get some rest.
Yes. So, well, I am so thankful, and I do hope that I see you at a Parang event. And I just want to encourage Trinidad and Tobago to continue to support the art form of Parang, corporate Trinidad and Tobago, governmental agencies, that we are working to ensure that we preserve and promote this art form. And I'm just making an appeal for the support that we need to ensure that this art form, this year we celebrate 53 years. So that says of our, perseverance, So we are hoping that you all, come on board in the future so that we can continue to work, especially for the younger ones and the generations to come. So I want to say thank you very much, Kitan, and the entire WESN family for having me this morning. And I take this opportunity to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a bright and a prosperous New Year.
Oh, thank you very, very much. All the very best of the season to you and all the merriments associated with it. Thank you for all that you do, and thank you for the music. Thank you very much.
I'll see you at Paramin.
Yes. Thank you very much, Miss Jaggers. Do have a great day ahead and enjoy the rest of the season.
Igualmente.
Take care. That's another hint I was given this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, you gotta brush up on your Spanish. So, a lot of hints. Thank you very much, Miss Jaggers. Take care.
Take care.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a break on the program. We'll return shortly.
Give us a call. The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist, where good private health care is affordable.
Simon's Musical Supplies Limited. We are the specialist in new and used musical instruments, carrying top brands like Yamaha, Pearl River pianos, vinyl and Sabian cymbals, Remo and Evans drumheads and Fender guitars, just to name a few. Also a wide assortment of music books, pan and accessories. At Simon's, we service what we sell. Trust the leader. Call us now at 625-6412 or visit us at 20 Board Street, Port of Spain.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
Welcome back to AM Prime, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being with us. So we now shift our focus across to the island of Tobago, where yesterday in Parliament, two bills were debated that sought to give Tobago greater autonomy. Now, the first bill, the Tobago Island Bill, was passed, and that bill actually repealed the Teaching Act and provided for a Tobago island government and Tobago legislative. It also had a point of order in it, which notes that the national budget earmark for Tobago moved from 4.7% to no less than 6.8%. The second bill, however, which required a special majority, or 3/5 of the Parliament, the Constitution Amendment to Tobago Self-Government Bill, that was defeated. There's so much commentary associated with what transpired in Parliament yesterday and the outcome of the debate. But let's hear from those it's affecting most, the people of Tobago, specifically those in the THC, because I'm joined this morning by the Deputy Chief Secretary and Secretary of Health, Wellness and Social Protection of the Tobago House of Assembly, Dr. Faith B. Israel. Good morning, Dr. B. Israel. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, and thanks for having me. And I'm glad you said the key thing. You are talking to those who it affects most. So I'm happy to be on this morning with you.
Dr. B. Israel, let me start with the Tobago Island Bill, the Island Government Bill. Earlier this year, you said that the THA was very much willing to support this bill, but there were amendments that needed to be made. The bill was passed yesterday in Parliament. Are you satisfied with the outcome of that particular bill?
So it's a constitutional amendment bill and the island government bill. They have to work together because key things in the constitutional amendment bill affects what happens in the island government bill. And when I said that there were key things that needed to be amended, unfortunately, we've had no conversation since then, and those things were not amended. So let me take you back a little bit. In 2021, when we were in the 6-6, we heard in the middle of the night that the bills that Mr. Rowley, actually Dr. Rowley, laid in Parliament in 2018, I think, that those bills were finally going to be before the Parliament. They were sent to a joint select, they were sent to a committee, and we were invited as a member of the Tobago House of Assembly at that time during 6-6, we were invited to participate in that process of the committee debating and the committee working through the bills. When we got to the committee stage, we actually recognized that the bills that Dr. Rowley laid in Parliament several years before, 2018 or so, the document that we were looking at was actually different. So there were key things that were shifted, key things that were changed in that bill. So we said then in 2021, a group of us got together. It included political organizations. As a matter of fact, Dr. Maria Dillon Remy, who is the independent senator from Tobago, actually called us. She played mommy for everybody, called everybody together and said, let us sit, this is for Tobago, let's have this conversation. It included our organization. Mr. Farley Augustine was there, I was there. It included the PNM, Tracy Davidson Celestine and Ansel Dennis was there. It included Mr. Hochoy Charles. It included other groups as well. They were a part of it. And what we did was send a letter to the committee stating, these are the things that we've recognized have shifted. These are the things we would like to have further conversation on, because these are the things that are mission critical for Tobago. By the way, coming close to the end, just before that letter was sent, the PNM people pulled out. They pulled out. They did not want to have anything to do with this. And when it was, when that information went, we heard nothing about it. They did not acknowledge that the letter even came, as in the committee did not even acknowledge that letter came. What we did, we actually asked individuals, we sent only a letter, did you get it? And they said, yes, we got the letter, so we know they got it. Which is why yesterday in the Parliament, when I can't remember who's the person, referred to the correspondence that came from Tobago in 2021 being included in the amendments that they had presented in the Parliament yesterday, 10 minutes into it. I got excited because I thought, okay, we're finally getting there. We haven't seen the amendments that they're talking about, but they said they took the letter into consideration, so we're going somewhere. Only to realize that they took off the critical things. They made 2 changes. One was changing the name of Chief Secretary to Premier, which is inconsequential. I mean, the name is really inconsequential because there were more critical things. The other thing we recognize that they did was include the fact that the definition of Tobago would have included the islands and so forth, but would be the administrative responsibility of the island would go to 11 nautical miles. Because that was one of the things we wanted to discuss. How do we define Trinidad and Tobago? How do we define Tobago? And therefore, how do we define Trinidad? So the one thing they did was shifted a little bit the definition of Tobago, but that still did not go far enough because of the critical issues. And let me explain what is one of the major critical issues. Whenever we talk about Tobago's autonomy, the first question almost everybody asks is, how can Tobago get more autonomy if can Tobago see about itself? Does Tobago have the resources to see about itself? Now, the thing with that is, most people on the island of Trinidad don't recognize that when Trinidad and Tobago is talking about oil and gas reserves that they are pulling from, even oil and gas reserves that they are exploring. When you talk about the Calypso field, I'm sure you know of late we're talking about that Calypso field. When you look at where that Calypso field is placed, if you were to separate Trinidad from Tobago, meaning they were 2 different countries, where that Calypso field is placed would actually be on the island of Tobago. It will belong to the country known as Tobago if we were separated. Yes, if we were separated, because it's back in the Charlottesville, Castara area. There are other oil and gas reserves that we use as a country. Block 22. If you talk to people in Plymouth and so forth, they will tell you they see the flares. The fishermen will tell you when they go out, there are rigs out there in waters that would be defined, quote unquote, as Tobago waters if we were separated as a country. So we are saying that given that we know that we contribute to the economy of Trinidad and Tobago, this idea of Tobago not contributing is not accurate. And the way to help us shift that thinking is to define Tobago in a particular way, define Trinidad in a particular way, and then we still keep the country Trinidad and Tobago together. And that would allow us to truly represent how much Tobago contributes to the economy of Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, these are recommendations that were put forward, but there is a bit of a confusing part here. The Prime Minister noted that these bills, in its form, have been sitting there for 13 months. There was also the need for consultation, but he also noted that the Chief Secretary forwarded him a WhatsApp with 8 pages of legal documents just minutes before the debate was due to begin. So this is where it's a bit confusing. Why is it that this letter was not sent earlier? And by extension, how significant were the consultations that the Prime Minister spoke of or referred to that should have been taking place over the previous 30 months?
So remember I told you that in 2021, we sent a letter that outlined the issues. They were basically the same issues. We were hoping that following that letter, the Parliament, whether it was the committee or whatever, would have come back and said, hey guys, you all sent this letter, let's have this discussion, let's continue with the consultations, let's probably go back to the people of Tobago. That did not happen. The next thing we learned is that last week, what was it, Thursday or Friday, we heard kind of by happenstance, by the way, that we are debating this on Monday. So we are like, but wait, how are you saying only debating this on Monday and we sent you that letter since 2021? You have not come back to us with anything. So we went back again over the weekend. So while everybody else is hamming and jamming and enjoying the time getting up to Christmas, we were sitting going through again, you know, between 2021 and now, we're like, okay, some things may change, slight shifts. Let us put it in a format that works for the Parliament. And that is what was sent early Monday morning, because it's Thursday, Friday. We heard that they were bringing this again to the Parliament on Monday. So the Prime Minister is very disingenuous to try to state that the thing that we sent on Monday was the first time he had heard anything about what the amendments should have been, when his people were the ones in Parliament saying Monday, stating that they were including things that were in the letter that was sent in 2021. They are basically the same set of issues that we discussed in 2021 that was resent yesterday morning.
So now I'm curious to know, as you mentioned at the beginning of the program, that both bills are supposed to work hand in hand. Only one bill was passed. That now moves to the Senate for debate. Is there a sense of satisfaction or disappointment that the second bill was not approved in its current form?
Well, the fact that the second, so as I said before, one needs the other. So one going forward without the other is a complete waste of time. It's a complete, and that is why when they brought them together, because one refers to the other for many issues. So that is, the fact that we are going this way means that, again, and Tobagonians feel this genuinely in our heart. The only time we hear about constitution amendments as it relates to the Tobago House of Assembly, the only time we hear about autonomy as it relates to the Tobago House of Assembly is just before an election. And it seems like that is what has happened again now. We are heels again before a general election, and the PNM has chosen again, because that is basically what happened in 2021. By the way, that is what happened before, when Orville London, who was the chief secretary at that time, just before an election again, just before he had demitted office in, what was that, 2016, I think, is when he sent the document to, not 2016, a little further, 2013 or further back, when he sent a document to the Prime Minister, who was then Keith Christopher Rowley, just before the Tobago House of Assembly election again. So the pattern is quite clear. This only comes up just before an election. And if the PNM, the Prime Minister, the Parliament, and the committee really wanted to have the kind of consultation that they are talking about, they had between 2021 and now to have that consultation, but they chose not to. And here we are.
Thing is, Dr. Faith B. Israel, from your position now, the Chief Secretary indicated that from what transpired yesterday, it's left no choice but the TG to actually seek overseas intervention in some form, even writing to the United Nations. Exactly what would that achieve, though? How could that be of any sort of assistance to the TG?
So what we truly believe is that the right to self-determination is a human right. It is one that is innate. It is one that belongs to every single human being, and collectively Tobago, it belongs to every island, every person, every individual. So we are thinking about it from that standpoint, in terms of, this is something, you should not take this away from us. 100 and something years ago, the island of Tobago was annexed to the island of Trinidad. We did not have a choice then when that happened. But we have a choice now where we can work through how we define this relationship. And let me go back to another critical area that you mentioned in the introduction. One of the things that those on the other side have been trying to push is this idea that this version of the autonomy bills would have given Tobago a 6.8% minimum of the budget. Do you know that the current version of the Tobago House of Assembly gives Tobago up to 6.9% of the budget? Yes, it does. Because the Dispute Resolution Commission says that the THA should be getting, it gave a range between 4.03 and 6.9%. So if the government of Trinidad and Tobago, as it claims in all of its its conversations lately, that it is willing to give Tobago 6.8%, it can actually give Tobago 6.8% right now with the current THA bill, the current THA Act in its current form. So the fact that they even say that and they try to compare 4% to the 6.8%, again, is them playing smart with foolishness, because they, as a matter of fact, the government of Trinidad and Tobago can give the THA 20% of the budget if it wishes, because what is outlined in law is minimum. That range is minimum, but it can decide to give more if it wishes.
I'm glad that you also raised that point, because hand in hand with that, as there's also a key part of this, was also the Tobago Island government's ability to legislate on its own, create laws for Tobago. That, unfortunately, will not happen at this point. So again, if both bills are due to work hand in hand, trying to understand the approach of what's going to happen next, trying to understand exactly how long does Tobago have to wait for autonomy.
So let me give you another example, because I'm glad you raised that legislative ability point. One of the things that we pointed out very clearly is that there is a deficiency in the areas where the Tobago House of Assembly or the Tobago Island government would be allowed to make laws for. And let me give you one critical example. Even though the definition of Tobago is classified as the land plus 11 nautical miles in the documents, when it comes to the schedule that speaks specifically about what Tobago can make laws for, there's a list. The list is quite truncated, and it does not include marine issues, for example. So if, for example, we wanted to do something, create a law about Boko Reef, probably, let's just say we want to ban jet skis because there's a study that says jet skis are affecting the reef. We still would not be able to do that, because in the schedule that speaks to what we can make laws about, marine affairs is not part of that list. That is another example of a critical change, a critical amendment, that when they said yesterday they had taken the amendments that we suggested into consideration, because this was sent quite in 2021. This was sent quite in 2021, and the documents they brought yesterday did not include an amendment like that. So even it was one of those things where, because we are so integrally involved in the management and the running of the island, we picked up things that they may not have thought about. They may not have genuinely thought about. And that is why I said when I was interviewed some time ago, that the bulk of it is fine, but there are just these key things that they needed to switch for it to make sense for us. And that's just one example when it comes to the legislative authority of the Tobago House of Assembly.
We focused thus far on this conversation about the actual outcome, focusing on the Prime Minister's reaction. He said effectively Tobago got nothing, and in respect to the aspirations of the people of Tobago, this was a blow. The thing is, Dr. Faith B. Israel, had these bills passed, what exactly would that have meant for the people of Tobago?
Let me tell you what this would have meant for the people of Tobago. And I would answer the question slightly differently. I'm looking down a bit because I'm actually reading from a statement that the said Prime Minister made in the House when he laid the bills in 2018. Okay? He indicated that a number of issues, I'm reading verbatim, it is actually on the Office of the Prime Minister's page. He indicated that a number of issues were identified as fundamental to an equitable relationship between the two islands in this country known as Trinidad and Tobago. They were equality of status between the two islands and a legislative framework reflecting such equality. From what I just told you, that does not exist in the documents that we were talking about, the documents that failed. The other one is a federal type system of governance. That does not exist in the document that we were talking about yesterday. The third thing is definition and delineation of the boundaries of each island in accordance with the Constitution. That was not included in the document because, for example, when we were talking about defining the island of Tobago, we would have also liked to see this is what Trinidad is. Because if the country is Trinidad and Tobago and you define Tobago as the island plus 11 nautical miles, reasoning says that the rest of it is Trinidad, which also includes the water masses that is behind Castara and behind Charlottesville and behind where these oil and gas finds are. So when we ask for that kind of definition and delineation, it is because we wanted that kind of distinction cleared up. And the last thing that he said, the responsibility of the Tobago administration to formulate and implement policy on all matters affecting the lives of Tobago, lives of people resident in Tobago. These are his words. Now, these are his words based on the years and years and years of consultation that happened on the island leading up to this document, the document being sent to Trinidad, and him laying this in the House in 2018. Using his words, the documents that failed, did not pass yesterday, would not have met the requirements that Tobagonians have been asking for. So no, yes, it is a blow. It means we have to figure out how to re-strategize and go again. But we are actually saying to Tobagonians that here is an opportunity for you all to make a clear decision on who you send to the parliament in Trinidad from Tobago. And that is why we are also gearing up for election. We are also gearing up to ensure that the two people, Tobago East and West MPs, who represent this island, truly represent this island and do not just represent their political party and have to go with what their political party says. Because even if you look at what the MPs who are there now, if you listen to them from a couple of years ago, they are the ones who are saying what Tobago wants Tobago should get. They are the ones that are saying the Shamfor Kajo is on record as saying, well, you can't define Tobago without defining Trinidad. They are the ones who said those words back then, but somehow it has changed now. So we are encouraging Tobagonians to ensure that you put two representatives who will truly represent your wants and wishes, and we will work through how we get the Tobago autonomy issue back into the parliament sooner than 20 years from now.
Minority Leader of the TJ, Kelvin Morris, has described this as political maneuvering and a lack of unity on the part of the Chief Secretary's part, saying that this will forever be a stain on Tobago's quest for autonomy.
Unity should have included him saying to his colleagues, since 2021, these amendments were sent to the committee. Let us sit and have a real conversation with Tobagonians, not just the Tobago House of Assembly, with Tobagonians. His party is the one who did not do that. So everything he just said, he is speaking directly front and center about his political organization, because they're the ones who failed Tobago.
Dr. B. Israel, in closing, just for clarification purposes, within the last 13 months, the communication between the Tobago House of Assembly and the government in respect to autonomy, what has that been?
We sent the letter in...
No, I know that.
I'm telling you, I'm answering the question. We sent the letter in 2021. The Joint Select Committee did not even respond to the letter that was sent. The next thing we heard about it was the Prime Minister indicating a couple weeks ago that this bill will be debated before the end of the term. And the next thing we heard was last week, Thursday, that it will be debated on Monday. That is the extent of the communication.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Dr. B. Israel. Thank you very much for your time this morning and for sharing with us your thoughts and opinions. I don't know how long again this is going to take, but I do know that there will always be opportunity for conversation. So for this morning, thank you very much, and all the very best to you and to the people of Tobago as everyone pays attention to this particular matter. Thank you so much.
And thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
All the best. Take care. Ladies and gentlemen, Tobago waits another
Here's your chance to win a bicycle, a ride-on, or a hoverboard. Shop at dbesttoys.com and spend $300 or more to win big.
We've got Barbie,
Hot Wheels, Gel Blasters, Ride-ons,
Leapfrog,
Nerf, bicycles and tricycles.
Greco, and Wonder Baby.
Visit us in store at Forces Flagship, McBean, Movietown, Port of Spain, Eastgate Mall, and M6 Plaza, Endeavour. Merry Christmas, everyone!
Simon's Musical Supplies Limited. We are the specialist in new and used musical instruments, carrying top brands like Yamaha, Pearl River pianos, vinyl and Sabian cymbals, Remo and Evans drumheads and Fender guitars, just to name a few. Also a wide assortment of music books, pan and accessories. At Simon's, we service what we sell. Trust the leader. Call us now at 625-6412 or visit us at 20 Board Street, Port of Spain.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. We are now focusing on the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Services. Last week, a video circulated on social media showing firefighter Edison James falling out of a defective fire tender near the Superior Market. The news is that he was discharged from hospital, I believe, on the very same day after sustaining cuts and bruises and contusions. And he is on leave, very much so for health reasons. We understand that. But it also raises an issue, a bigger issue in respect to the equipment that is currently available to the Tobago Fire Services and how safe they are for operational use, because it affects not just the citizens, it affects the firefighters as well, of course. So let's get into that conversation, as I'm joined this morning by the president of the Tobago Fire Service Association, Keon Guy. Good morning, Mr. Guy, and welcome to the program.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Mr. Guy, first of all, the news in respect to Mr. James. We are glad from the descriptions following that incident of his injuries that it was not anything more severe. But how is Mr. James doing this morning as we speak?
Well, I'm happy to report that, as you stated earlier, the officer was not severely injured. We understand that this could have been a circumstance that could have come out much, much worse than what the injuries he actually sustained. He remains on leave at this time. Our welfare team, led by the Vice President, Mr. Ishmael Noel, has visited with him and spoken to the affected crew as well. We've also arranged for them to access the Employee Assistance Program to have some psychological support as well. Now, these officers, again, the officer, Mr. James, was physically injured. And our thoughts are with him and his family, but the crew that were transporting with him as well, that being transported with him, they also were psychologically impacted by seeing their colleague being ejected from a vehicle, and a situation that has become all too common in the fire service. We believe now that this particular incident underscores the risk faced by fire officers, having to not only operate quite derelict vehicles, but also vehicles that are quite poorly maintained. And in this case, it's a known issue, and we are calling for it to be addressed in the shortest possible time.
You said it's a known issue, and one of the points that was noted in reaction to this is that 5 officers have been injured this year due to issues with defective vehicles. Now, could you just tell us exactly what those issues are? What makes these vehicles defective? In one instance, we have a defective door, but in the case of other officers, what has turned out there?
The injuries that we've seen this year are quite beyond 5, actually. That 5 number pertains to the number of officers that were injured in this similar way, that is being ejected from vehicles of this very similar class of water tender. But for the year, we've had in excess of 40 officers who have been injured in circumstances that we consider to be 100% avoidable, provided had they been provided with the requisite personal protective equipment or the appliances that and equipment they were asked to operate were properly maintained. Earlier this year in January, we had 2 officers who were quite seriously injured when the hydraulic platform in which they were operating, the height just between 65 to 70 feet, collapsed, causing them some fractures. They had some fractures, and those 2 officers are still on injury leave. So they've lost about 12 months psychological impact, the trauma on their families, and all this that went on in January till now. And since that, we had a number of officers who were injured as a result of faulty ladders and so on. So it's not been a good year for the organization, for fire officers in general, when it comes to injuries. And it's something that we began to track as we believe that it has been often swept under the carpet. And we believe that a spotlight needs to be shined upon these preventable injuries.
Let me raise another issue that is associated with this, and it's a point that you raised just a couple months ago. The budget for officers for the purchase of equipment was slashed. Now, you noted previously that there are a number of stations without fire tenders or enough equipment to service the geographical region of which that fire station is supposed to respond to in the event of any emergency. Since the budget has been slashed, how is it that fire services have been able to operate efficiently, knowing that they themselves are putting their officers in danger, at risk?
Well, that's it. With limited resources or with increased resources, given the challenges that we've had over the past decade, will not provide an environment where the officers can in fact or indeed operate efficiently. It's the reason you're seeing injuries like what happened on Thursday gone. It's the reason we are seeing incidents like what took place on Friday, where a fire officer ironically lost his home in Princestown area after the station was relocated. It's the reason we're having a high number of deaths or even loss of property throughout the country on account of fire and other fire-related emergencies. The fire service is woefully unequipped, despite the association making calls for better funding, for better government processes to ensure that we can indeed acquire the necessary equipment. It seems to have fallen on deaf ears, and as you alluded to earlier, indeed we saw a slash in the funding for small equipment as well as for the purchasing of appliances.
I don't know if you are in a position, hopefully you are, to tell us how many fire tenders are currently in operation and how many of them are actually safe to operate.
But that's quite a challenging question. If I were to share some pictures with the public, you'll understand exactly why. We have appliances that are on the run that thankfully no officer has been ejected from. But when you look at the locking mechanisms or the mechanisms to open and close those doors, they are sometimes the strings tied on to the doors to assist the officers in opening and closing the officers. There are appliances that have a lot of braking issues, steering issues, and a host of defects, including failure of their firefighting pumps. And this is something that we have not discussed publicly very often, but it's quite common within the fire service now to have a failure of a firefighting pump while on an emergency. And those are the pumps that are attached to the appliances, that makes these water trucks otherwise into fire tenders. And we're responding to emergencies and seeing them failing at an increased rate, at an alarming rate, I would say. Of course, once that occurs, the officers are unable to carry out their functions and, of course, unable to interrupt the spread of that fire and or other hazard that they may be trying to address at the time. So it is challenging. I can't give you the exact number, but what I can say within the Northern Division, which spans from the Western Peninsula straight up to Shangri-La Fire Station, we have 4 stations that are without firefighting, 4 out of 11 stations that are without firefighting capabilities. In the Southern Division, we have, of course, the Princeton Fire Station that is not in operation, as well as the, I would want to say the Penal Fire Station at the moment that is without an appliance. And that was on account of the incident that happened in Siparia. They took the penal appliance and took it to Siparia. So it's a sort of musical chair, if you will, with firefighting appliances. And of course, any right-thinking citizen will understand that this doesn't augur well for firefighting capabilities.
Even when officers are responding to an emergency, there's a possibility when they get there that the pumps aren't even necessarily working. So that in itself leads to bigger issues. But you just mentioned something as well in relation to musical chairs. Is there a situation where in TNT where officers from one region have to respond to fires in another region, that their travels to that region can take longer simply because of unavailable stations or equipment for service?
Yeah, of course. Presently, we have the situation, and I'll draw on it again, ongoing in Princeton region, where that station area is now, or any past is being covered with between Rio Claro fire stations and the penal fire stations. Now that the penal fire stations is without an appliance, it's totally, the responsibility totally falls upon that of the Rio Claro fire station to cover the Muruga, New Grant, Princeton, Tabaquite, Piparo area. Of course, for those who understand and know the geography in Trinidad and Tobago would know that it's extremely difficult, almost impossible. And that the incident that occurred over the weekend where the fire officer lost his home in Princeton and the other families would have lost their properties as well. I'm not saying that having an appliance in Princeton would have prevented the loss, but definitely it hampered our response time, and that can be directly linked to increased losses. But this is not an occurrence only in the Southern Division. We have the Sour Fire Station that presently is also, in addition to being responsible for its area, it's also responsible for the Santa Cruz area that stretches all the way up to Lafayette on the North Coast, as well as covering parts of the Mova Station ground as far south as Caroni. So these vehicles are overworked, the officers are overworked, we are under-equipped. And while the officers stay dedicated to their task and their duty, they are just not motivated given the lack of equipment, increased risk to themselves and to members of the public as well.
Earlier, and when I say earlier, I mean a couple of months ago, you indicated that there are numerous fire stations without fire trucks. You specifically pointed out Point Fortin, Miaro, Morva, Belmont, Woodbrook, Chaguaramas, but you also noted that there were others as well. Point of note for Woodbrook, I pass there almost on a daily basis. And I actually thought at one point it was a firefighter's museum, given that the state and even the equipment that you see on the road. But the Minister of National Security, of which the fire services falls under, has indicated that, contrary to your claims, there are only 4 of fire stations that are without fire tenders. At this point, this is just a couple months ago, he noted in 2025 that there are equipment that are on order that are due for delivery. But this morning, as we speak, how many fire stations are equipped with tenders?
It's unfortunate that the minister would have repeatedly brought that information to the public. It's unfortunate that either his advisors or his memory would have failed him. But within, as I just highlighted, just within the Northern Division alone, there are 4 stations without firefighting capable appliances. And those stations are presently the Belmont Fire Station, Woodbrook Fire Station, Santa Cruz Fire Station, and the Mover Fire Station. That's presently as it exists today. And I already highlighted the challenges in South between the Penal Fire Station being without an appliance and the Princeton Fire Station being non-operational. Some persons might forget we also had an appliance, or we had a fire station at Lady Hills in San Fernando. That station was also vacated on account of having asbestos in the ceiling. And that station was never rebuilt, was never reoccupied. So as opposed to expanding and growing to meet the needs of a developing society, the fire service has actually been contracting, and not only in its scope, but in its equipment and I dare say manpower as well, as we are more than 25% under strength at the present moment.
We're not even speaking about just the actual resources. We're speaking about the human aspect as well, and the numbers that are available. This is incredible what I'm hearing this morning. Not that it's necessarily new, because throughout the course of this year, these issues have been raised. It's just compounded by that video that was circulating on social media. Ultimately, who is responsible for repairing these fire tenders? And oftentimes, it's all dependent on the problem at hand, of course, but oftentimes, how long is a fire tender out of service if it's gone for repair? Just average.
Very difficult at this time to average the length of time. Oftentimes, these appliances are returned to service without having the issue for which it was initially pulled from service totally or properly or sufficiently addressed. We have some very, I'm quite serious. We have some very dedicated staff at the engineering department whose responsibility it is to conduct routine repairs and maintenance of these vehicles. But these officers, like the operational officers, are woefully under-equipped. Oftentimes, they don't have the parts to conduct the repairs, so they are often trying their best to, as I said yesterday in another program, to turn these mechanics into magicians as they're trying to make appliances appear. We have resorted to cannibalizing appliances. And of course, this is not a sustainable strategy to ensuring that we have the full complement of appliances that are required. But if I was to assign blame, it is to multiple places and offices and office holders. The chief officer is not an accounting officer. We are dependent on the permanent secretary within the Ministry of National Security to approve purchasing of this nature, as well as we are dependent on the allocations and the eventual releases. That, of course, is a decision made by cabinet, and they bring before and they present annually at the parliament when they prepare the budget. And as we mentioned earlier before, we've seen a cut in a lot of the areas that the fire service actually need an injection and investment at this time.
Mr. Guy, forgive my reaction. It's just that this is... It's dumbfounding. You would think that these are basic things that exist. Because even if you're not getting new fire tenders that are necessary, you would have hoped that the service department at least would have had the necessary funding or equipment to repair those that are existing, the fire tenders that are existing. So, forgive my reaction. This is absolutely, I can't believe that this is actually what is happening. Now, in respect to injured officers and seeking the necessary healthcare and the necessary compensation for time lost and for injury incurred, has that been also an issue, or has that been something that is relatively a smooth process?
I thank you for bringing up that question and allowing me the opportunity to address it. That was another issue that we highlighted in our response to the government's budget this year. We highlighted that the funding for medical expenses within the fire service was cut from $1 million in the previous fiscal to $200,000 in this fiscal. $200,000. Fire officers, as I said before, we are working in an environment where officers are now we are seeing injuries at an increased rate, and those are those that are just visible to us. We believe that the long-term exposure to carbon monoxide and the other carcinogens will lead to officers suffering debilitating effects. as a result, and those are things that we will see over a period of time. For officers to capture that, however, or to catch it early, we need to undergo routine testing. And based on the funds that are available, we don't believe that the government is committed towards this. We believe that there is indeed an abandonment of fire officers, not only those who are active, but our retirees as well, who are retiring and suffering strokes almost immediately after or thereupon. These are things that are known well internationally, the risk that fire officers face. It's a responsibility that we have taken up because we understand that the society requires some within it to take on this duty. But others may not be more willing to do or capable of doing. Fire officers have taken on that responsibility. But the government, on the other hand, is breaking both their social and psychological contract by not ensuring that they are provided, fire officers are provided with the requisite equipment, and that if they should become injured, ill, while active or retired, that their health care will be taken care of. That is not guaranteed for us. And in fact, as I mentioned before, we're seeing a decrease in the funding. And if you would just allow me to mention one more thing as it pertains to this issue, is that we have written the Minister of Finance to seek some amendments to the prescribed regulations of the National Insurance Act. We are yet to have a response from him. What that amendment seeks to address is the burden of proof that the officer is required to bear in demonstrating that any other type of cancer or job-related illness that we know is job-related based on the science and studies that have been done internationally, that burden of proof is removed from the officer, and that should the officer develop specific types of cancers, diseases, or so on, that it be presumed that it was that was acquired on the job or as a result of the occupational hazard. We look forward to a response from the Minister of Finance on this issue. It's quite an important one, and in fact, I would say that we hope to probably have that even addressed with the Chief Personnel Officer when we meet with him in some time in the near future.
How long ago was that letter sent to the Minister of Finance?
That letter was sent to the Minister of Finance, I will say back in June or July of this year. We had discussions with the Chief Personnel Officer, quite informally, I would say, previously, so I will not hold him responsible in that regard. But we did send formal communication to the Minister, and we are yet to have a response. And again, it goes back to what we believe in is the posture of the government when it comes to fire officers. They seem to be neglecting fire officers, not just with the provision of equipment and ensuring that we are able to work in safe environments, but that they are just unable to demonstrate that they care for fire officers by reaching out and engaging in dialogue with the representative body as well. And we've been unable to see that at this time.
So let's just recap what we've learned from this interview this morning. The fire services, in respect to the human resource, 25% manpower is not there. So it's operating at 75% capacity at this time. Fire stations, many fire stations without functioning fire tenders. We know the issues with the breathing apparatus. I know there were, you also raised a couple of months ago exactly the type of breathing apparatuses that were ordered as well. You had concerns in respect to that. And as you pointed out this morning, where fire stations are located in respect to the geographic regions is also causing issues in respect to the response to emergencies. With all that put together, it's a formula for disaster. I am, curious to know how long is it that the fire service can continue operating and function in this way? And in seeking some sort of redress, have you been able to have these conversations with the Minister of National Security?
Well, that seems to be the social experiment that we are all living through at the moment, to see how long can the fire service continue to exist and operate or deliver some form of firefighting capability when we continue to reduce their budgetary allocations, as well as stifle or stymie the human resource replenishment. I would say our attrition rate stands at approximately 50 persons per year. We've not had a training or even the absorption of new officers in excess of 5 years now. We have attempted to meet with the Minister of National Security since I was elected on December the 12th of 2023 up to present date. We've written and sent numerous correspondence to both the Minister directly and through the Permanent Secretary. And we've yet to receive even a response to those requests for meetings. And these are just issues that we consider to be critical, issues that I believe any right-thinking citizen of Trinidad and Tobago will be quite concerned about. And yet still we have a minister who has, for whatever reason, failed to engage in true and meaningful dialogue with the association. I can't speak to his motives or intentions. I believe that it is indeed an issue for him to take stock of and probably look at addressing. We would like to have the attention of the minister. We hope that we indeed do. However, he seems to limit his interaction with the fire service to a few statements in the parliament, and we consider to be quite concerning.
Mr. Guy, thank you very much for joining us on the program this morning. And in respect to the officer who was injured, and this is Barry Marcus and Mr. James, as I said, as I started the conversation, I am only grateful that it was not, the injury sustained was not worse than what was incurred. So to him, all the very best in his recovery. And of course, to all members of the fire service, we thank them for their service to TNT and of course their continued battles. They're fighting fires for TNT, but they're also fighting issues of themselves. So thank you so much, Mr. Guy, and all the very best to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the platform.
Take care. All the best.
Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, the issues associated with the fire service is we've highlighted it throughout the course of the year, not just at WES and of course at the media houses as well. The issues in respect to the breathing apparatus was of major contention, but following the slash of the budget, I use the word slash because really, if you get the opportunity to take a look at those figures, I just had them in front of me. Unfortunately, I don't have them right now. But the equipment alone is dysfunctional. And on top of that, we still have to wait for orders to be received and delivered to Toronto in 2025. Hopefully that brings some sort of reprieve, but from the basis of it, it's simply not enough. So when we start 2025, we keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for AM Prime. Thank you very much to all my guests for joining me on the program this morning, Dr. Faith B. Israel and of course Kieran Guy. And thank you very much for my team, Ryan Gomersberg and Milewood, and Naomi McNish for producing the program. I'm Keaton Shaw, reminding you today is a good day to have a good day, and we'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye.
WESN.
¿Qué camino cogería si cogióle las desgracias? ¿Qué golpe no llevaría? ¿Qué golpe no llevaría? Una mujer me llamaba, pero